and welcome back to Let There Be Light. Thank you so much for being here, for tuning in. If you're returning, thanks for returning. If you're new here, welcome to Let There Be Light, the place where we find the beauty in the broken. I know there's a lot of options of things you could be listening to, and so I'm grateful that you're joining me today. And what an episode to be tuning into. Today's guest is one of those guests where it's a bit of a pinch me moment, where I'm so grateful that this particular person would take the time to talk with me about their story, inspire me, inspire my listeners. And it really is a story that sticks with you, that you just want to tell everyone you know, you want to shout it off on the rooftops. The way that God has been moving in this particular story is incredible. And also the way that God continues to move in this person's life and being able to see that. It's just such a testament. I think sometimes when we hear the stories of the saints or of scripture, we think like, well, that just happened then. And sometimes it can feel a little removed, whereas I feel like this story just puts full on display of God's goodness and finding God's goodness in the darkest of times. This episode will bring you gratitude. It will bring you inspiration. It will bring you hope. It will bring you reflection. It will bring you joy. It will move you emotionally. I was moved emotionally, and I'm really, really looking forward to you all being able to hear this. Today's guest is John O'Leary, and I'm going to read the official bio for John because he has quite a bit of achievements. It all started in 1987. John O'Leary was a curious 9-year-old boy playing with fire and gasoline. John created a massive explosion in his home and was burned on 100% of his body. He was given less than a 1% chance to live. Now, with a miraculous recovery, he shares it with the world. John inspires over 50,000 people at over 100 events each year, speaking to companies and organizations across industries. John is also a 2-time #1 national best-selling author. His first book, On Fire, The 7 Choices to Ignite a Radically Inspired Life, has sold over 250,000 copies and been translated into 12 languages. In All, Rediscover Your Childlike Wonder to Unleash Inspiration, Meaning, and Joy was published in May 2020, with many saying it is the message we all need right now. Most recently, in 2025, John's bestseller came to life on the screen with the release of Soul on Fire. Soul on Fire counters the belief that we are defined by our mistakes or the difficulties we endure. It instead celebrates the parts of John's stories that are most enduring and most universal, that when community comes together, when personal imperfections are embraced, and when we allow who we wish we were to finally give way to the gift we already are, amazing things happen. John frequently says in the interview, it's a matter of closing his eyes and saying yes to God's will, and it's really something. John also has an award-winning podcast, the Live Inspired podcast, and it has more than 2.5 million downloads and enjoys world-class guests, including Brene Brown, which I'm a huge fan of. John, however, considers his greatest success to be his marriage to his wife, Beth, their 4 children, and his relationships with friends and families. And you will see that when you speak, when you hear from him, just the humility that he has is really exceptional, and it's beautiful. So I do want to say, you have to watch the Soul on Fire movie. It is incredible. Whether it's before this episode, whether it's after this episode, whichever order you prefer, it is on Netflix, Apple, Amazon. You could stream it. You can find information on his website. I'm going to have all of that below in the show notes. Also in the show notes, I'll have his podcast and his books. But the Soul on Fire movie, I cried, I laughed, I giggled. It brought me so much joy. It's a great movie for the entire family. It's one of those movies that it just sticks with you. So to be able to sit down and talk with him about his story, about the process of making the movie. It was such a gift. We talk about the movie, we talk about beyond the movie, we talk about his family, his dad, his parents, their marriage. I mean, it's just a really wonderful conversation. So I hope you enjoy. Clearly, I'm excited. Watch Soul on Fire. You will not regret it. It's incredible. And enjoy this conversation with John O'Leary.
I'm Mary Coltwriter. Welcome to Let There Be Light. Finding beauty in the broken starts right now.
Let's get ready. Let's get ready to shine. Let's get ready. Move yourself, go do that.
Wait, I want to show you first. These are funny notes because these are my official notes for our conversation. But I had a Goodwill receipt, and when I was watching your movie, I just wrote down things. So this is on my Goodwill receipt, which is very nice.
Solid. I recommend the Goodwill receipt.
Yes.
Walk into Soul on Fire.
Yes, big fan of Goodwill. John O'Leary, welcome to Let There Be Light. Thanks for being here today.
Mary, this is awesome. Thank you.
So we were just talking. This is our second time talking to each other in an interview setting. We have no idea what we talked about the first time.
Yeah, I don't know what that means for what's going to happen during this conversation.
Right.
It concerns me a little bit that neither of us remember the content, but we remember one another's faces.
We do. Do you get that often? Because so you have a podcast of your own. You speak all around the world. Do you have that happen to you often? We're like, what was I saying?
So I'm blessed to travel the world, as you alluded to, as a speaker. And when you do that, you not only meet a lot of organizers, you meet a ton of folks in the audience, and you do a lot of interviews.
Yeah.
So I've been fortunate to do a whole lot of interviews, and I try to remember the people I sit across from, but it's impossible for me.
Yes.
I wish I could, but it's
Right.
very difficult to remember everybody. So
Yes.
it does happen from time to time.
Yes.
But I know, Mary, I know you, I know your work, I know your heart. And so when you reached out to say, hey, will you do this interview? It was an easy yes.
Oh, well, thank you so much, because this is going to sound like a weird way to start it, but you were in my dream last night. And yeah.
Go ahead. Hurry up and finish this, Mary. The audience is waiting.
They're like, wait, where is she going with this? I paused because right when I said it, I was like, should I finish the story? Is this a good idea? Like, you just saw in real time me processing what just happened there. No, you were in my dream last night because we were doing this interview. And everything was going wrong in it. Like, the camera was breaking, the mics are breaking. And for some reason, we were at my grandma's house.
That's awesome.
And all of my nieces and nephews were like getting in the way, like grabbing things, and it was going terribly wrong. And I said, I feel so bad. I said, I told you we would do this in the morning, and now, it's not until the afternoon. I've taken up your entire day, John. I'm so sorry. Like, that was the premise of the dream.
Well, how did the guy you were dreaming about handle that? Do you remember how John responded?
You were very kind. You were very kind in the dream.
And so my hope is that what we talk about today reminds people that if the nephews and nieces are a train wreck, and if the technology fails, and if it rains when you're outside, it's all good. I think we worry way too much about making sure the nephews and nieces be quiet. And are the mics plugged in just right?
Yeah.
And is the weather just perfect? And what God reminds us is he works through all seasons.
Yeah.
And I think that dream perfectly leads into this conversation.
It does,
you know what I
doesn't
mean?
it?
So hopefully it just settled you to realize it's good. Like, this is going to be an awesome conversation.
This is going to be an awesome conversation. And also just understanding that sometimes it's hard to receive people. I don't know if you have this when you're doing a podcasting. Like, I feel almost bad about asking for people's time.
Right.
And that is something that I kind of have to wrestle with, is that a lot of times, like, people want to be a part of like your ministry and they want to support you, but it's hard to receive that. And I think that
it is a weird deal where you're asking people for their time, but you're also elevating their ability to impact lives that they would not have access to otherwise.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a trade-off. As a podcast host, we've done 850 interviews.
Wow.
And some of those are with folks that you've never heard of, but you should have.
Yeah.
And others are with folks that are unbelievably well known.
Yeah.
And in both cases, though, there's a bit of an ask. When you're asking of someone an hour of their lives, they'll never get that back.
Right.
And so I think my job is to make sure that they feel at peace when they show up, that I know their story to the degree that I can, that I understand their heart, and how to make sure that we utilize their story and their testimony to impact lives beyond mine.
Wow. I'm like learning to do this as from you. That was really good. This was really good. You should have like a podcasting boot camp.
Well, as you and I were talking about earlier, like, yeah, but none of us will make money doing it. You know, the great lie of podcasting is to think, gosh, man, they're just killing it as they leave these episodes. And the reality is the work we do is for others.
Yes.
And that is awesome. That's enough to get you out of bed early, to bring the microphones into the studio, Mary, and to provide content that inspires others to keep moving forward in their lives.
Yeah. And I find that I get so much out of the conversations that it's simply just changing me. And so I can only hope that it's doing the same for others. I can only pray that. So your movie, I told you, my fiance and I, we cried. It was incredible. Soul on Fire. First of all, was this always something you wanted to do? Did you always want to make your book into a movie, your story into a movie?
Gosh, no. I mean, so if you knew me, you would know I'm introverted. You would know, like, I was at dinner in Clayton last night, and my hope is to end almost every sentence with a question. I don't like when the light's on me or the camera's on me. I prefer to focus on others. I know that sounds like, well, that's a really sweet thing to say, but like sincerely, I'm a trained hospital chaplain. Spent a couple years working with kids. And when you're doing that, it's not about evangelization, and it's certainly not about glorifying how great your book was or movie is. It's letting someone else know that they are cared for and loved and seen. It's just like loving people where they are.
Yeah.
And so, no, I never dreamed of turning On Fire into a film called Soul on Fire. But God, if you continue to shut your eyes and step forward, will work in ways you can't fathom.
Yeah.
And that's what happened again in my life.
Wow. So when you're going through this process, you know, of course, you had already gone through your story a lot with your inspirational speaking and with your book. Was putting it on screen and watching that process, was that different? Was that a different level of emotional? Because I could see that could be hard to see that again.
Right. So first, the backstory that led to it is I was speaking in 2017 in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand, and 28,000 people, which is one of the bigger audiences we've ever spoken to live. So that's a ton. I was nervous. And they had a piano on the main stage. So that scene you saw in the film, that's a real scene.
Yeah.
And I had planned on playing Coldplay, I forget what song, like Yellow or whatever.
Yellow.
I mean, I'm cheesy, man. So like I was going to just jam out and like show these folks like you can do difficult things. And right beforehand, the meeting planner said, I want to thank you for playing the piano. And I said, what song do you want to hear, ma'am?
Yeah.
And she goes, well, what's your mom's favorite? Because she knew it was my mom that helped teach me the piano.
Yeah.
So I said, well, my mom's favorite is Amazing Grace. And she goes, play that, John. So in the pre-calls, one of the questions is, what do you not want John to talk about? And question 13 always ends with the answer, your faith. Don't talk about faith, John. And yet the very thing they told me not to talk about, I could not avoid because she requested play Amazing Grace. And so we did, which was awesome. And afterwards, this is, again, how God works. I'm doing a book signing, 28,000 people. Even if the vast majority of you hate you afterwards, even if a small percentage are inspired, it's a crazy long line.
Yeah.
So it was a line of about 1,000 folks who came up to get their book signed.
Wow.
And in this book signing, there was a woman named Linda from just outside of D.C. And Linda says, have you ever thought about turning this? And she held my book up into a movie. And I said, no. She said, could I try? So I said, the answer is yes. Like that's the answer to all of us in life. The answer, when you ask me on the podcast, the answer is always like, shut your eyes, say yes, and step.
Yeah.
So I told her, yeah, you can try. But I never thought it would happen.
Wow.
And so she slowly moved this thing forward, and it's a long story that led it all the way to the starting line.
Yeah.
But through grace and through her efforts and a whole lot of people stepping forward and stepping up, it happened. So then you bring it to set, and they were going to film this thing either in L.A., in Atlanta, or in Vancouver. And then the director, his name is Sean McNamara. McNamara directed Reagan, directed a movie called Bow, which is worth checking out. Directed Soul Surfer.
Love that one.
I mean, he's like gifted.
Yeah.
So he comes to St. Louis just to meet my family and just to get a sense for like who we are.
Yeah.
And I take him to St. Louis University. That's where I graduated. And he's like, dude, where is this place? I'm like, well, this is my school, man. He goes, it should be in a movie. Then I take him to the church where we got married. We got married at the Shrine of St. Joseph downtown.
Stunning.
And he's like, this should be in a movie. Then I take him to Jack Buck's burial site. It's called Jefferson Barracks. And he's like, dude, this should be in a film. Take him by Mercy Hospital where I was treated. And then we have dinner that night at my mom and dad's. And I promise you, Mary, I will answer your question, but this is all tied. And we're having dinner at mom and dad's. And Sean asks, so where did the fire happen? And my mom stands up to show him. And Sean says, you mean the fire happened here? And she's like, yeah, this is our home. This is where it happened. It's where we live. He's like, well, this should be in a movie. And it wasn't said that time, like, maybe it's like, we need to film here.
Yeah.
And a whole lot of things had to happen. We had to change state law.
It's a big deal, right?
The whole thing was work. But
Yeah.
you asked, what was it like to have the film, to be part of this thing in video? And week 2 was when they filmed the house fire. So to be in my mom and dad's house,
Wow.
in the front hall where it happened, to see it from like the video perspective, because the way we never wanted to show a child on fire. Like that's who wants to see that,
Right.
So we showed it point of view. So the child in his experience is what the audience saw.
Yeah.
And what that means is, for the first time since the day I was burned, I was able to see what that child saw, which is a child running from a burning garage.
Yeah.
That's the camera shot into the front hall, spinning around a couple times, nervous and panicked and burning, looking up to the front hall and seeing 2 sisters who are now actresses screaming down at this child burning. And then looking to the right and seeing my brother Jim coming up and just saving my life. And so to see this moment that did happen in the place where it happened, portrayed by people who were brilliant in the way that it happened, is a difficult thing to see, but also a beautiful thing to see. I mean, you and I, Catholics, in the front of the room where we worship hangs a dead, perfect being. The thing that nobody wanted, Christmas was recent. The very thing that nobody imagined when they're bringing gifts and the shepherds are visiting and the family and Elizabeth and little baby John is like, no one saw that coming. But the very thing that is seemingly the worst, we now recognize as the best.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing.
It is.
And so the same, in a similar way, not at all in the same Christian way, but in a similar way, the very thing that is the worst moment in our family's life, a child burning, a house on fire, kids screaming, it's horrible,
Oh, yeah.
is restorative in the end. And so we were able to go through this very difficult process. That happened before lunch. Take lunch, cut. And then after lunch, they film John coming home from the hospital, because when you're on a movie set, you don't want to pack up and film weeks later. You shoot everything where it happened.
Oh, that must have been interesting.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So an hour and a half after we show the worst of John's life,
Yeah.
we show in some regards at that moment the best of John's life, this little boy coming home in a wooden station wagon, the good old days, the band playing, the family there, the music overhead, and then it ends with a shot of leaves dropping, like this just moment of grace. And so, I forget who wrote it, but they were the best of times, they were the worst of times. And that's what happened on one day on set, and it's one of 21 days we shot, all of it hard to watch and all of it beautiful to watch.
Yeah. Well, what you're describing really is, I think in Christianity, sometimes we forget the role of suffering and what it can bring and does bring through God. And that's really what I felt like your story does so well, is really show like suffering with God right behind it.
Right.
The amount of God moments. And that's why, even when you were saying, when you're speaking, they say, don't talk about faith. It's like, how can this story, like, you cannot even say God, but like God's in the story.
And I regardless of what they say, sorry if you don't want to book me now, but regardless of what they say, we talk about our faith.
Yes.
Because you can't tell the story.
You can't.
without. And I think ultimately people want to be loved at the well, even
Yeah.
if they claim a different faith or no faith at all.
Right.
When they know they are being respected and seen and loved as they are, and that they have an opportunity to take a different next right step forward,
Yeah.
I think all of us are open to that.
Yeah.
So even the meeting planners who say don't, as we get to the point where we meet them at the well, they say thank you,
Right.
which is awesome.
Right.
I recognize this is not my work; it's God's work through our story.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So of course now, it's a little bit easier to see the graces and the blessings. I want to go back to specifically your family, but even before the accident. Can you tell me about your parents and faith and what was it like growing up?
Yeah, so mom and dad, apparently they had first names. I didn't know that for years. I remember one time in like second grade, this is a true story. I was not a good student, as my wife can attest, because I'm not a good taxpayer or bill payer or anything else these days. I haven't learned that stuff. Thank God for Beth. But in second grade, I just was a hack, man. And so there was a test I think I got a 0 on. Sister Mary Teresa made me go home and have it signed.
Oh.
So I come back the following day, and I didn't want my mom and dad to see a 0, so I signed it for them, brought it. And then that night we're having dinner, and the phone rings. It says Sister Mary Teresa, and they handed the phone to my mom. And then I see my mom start laughing, but also angry. So apparently John had signed the 0% test, Mrs. O'Leary. And she realized very quickly Mrs. O'Leary would not have signed the 0% test, Mrs. O'Leary. So my mom's name is Susan. My dad's name is Denny. I'm one of 6.
Yeah.
We grew up in a beautiful area. We went to St. Clement's Catholic Church as kids. Prayers before dinner and before bed. We went to church on Sundays and for all the holidays, and just grew up in a faithful, loving home. But outside of the 0% test, we'd never been tested. Like my dad was an attorney. My mom was a teacher, but mostly she raised 6 kids. And life was good. The sun was shining. Money was never an issue. Health was never an issue. What's not to celebrate?
Yeah.
It's very easy to be grateful to God's goodness when life is seemingly perfect.
Yes.
And yet my parents were so resolute in their faith that they were preparing themselves and their kids for what to do when life would change, as it always will, always, for all of us.
Right.
We didn't know to what degree it would change and whose world would change most dramatically, but they knew life would change, and it's important to be faithful. I think it's in Job, the Lord gives, the Lord takes, blessed be the name of the Lord.
Yeah.
And the Lord gave a lot, but they also knew at some point maybe the Lord might take, and yet in both seasons, blessed be the name of the Lord. So we grew up in a very faithful, very loving, very fun, very good home
Yeah.
that had never been tested, and we were about to be tested.
Yes. Yes. Entirely. That verse, when I was little, I wrote that on under our carpets, but we were building a new house. And then when we moved, someone like ripped them up, and they found me on the internet. And they're like, did you write this? And they were like, we found the verse. And it's so funny. I was like, wow, I can't believe I wrote that when I was like 10 years old.
That's awesome.
What a good verse to carry through life.
Right.
Because it's that idea of constantly praising God, even through the pain and the sorrow and the suffering. So now we're in the accident. Were your parents automatically, when you're going through this? Because you're 9, correct? So how do you explain to a 9-year-old, like, suffering and God? Like, I'm not even sure how you would do that.
I think from the moment they're in diapers is how you do it. And the way you really do it, a guy named Mike Matheny is a buddy of mine who was the manager for the Cardinals for a while and a strong Christian, humble leader. And he said leadership is caught, not taught. Because we were talking about leadership. Leadership is caught, not taught. I witnessed the way my mom and dad would show up for others.
Yeah.
I witnessed the way they endured suffering with others. They hadn't gone through a lot themselves, but I saw the way they bore a cross with people they loved.
Yeah.
And it's the way my dad recently passed away, but it's the way they did it until the end. And so they preached it a little bit. We went to church and all that stuff. We prayed, we read scripture. But more than all that, I witnessed my mom and dad bear suffering beautifully and unapologetically and bravely. And so that's one part of it. Secondly, and you know this from the film, and you've done a little bit of recon on me before, but when I came into the hospital, I'm 9, as you alluded to. I'm burned on 100% of your body, which it is a death sentence.
Yeah.
Like people just don't survive this. And I have no clothes and no skin on. Like I'm dying. And I don't know that for sure, but I know I'm struggling. And my mother comes in. It's, I think, portrayed beautifully in the film. The actress's name is Stephanie Shostak. So my mother in real life comes in. She takes my right hand, pats my bald head, and says, "I love you." She just says, "Baby, I love you." As a 9-year-old mischievous child, I said, "Mom, knock it off with the love. Am I going to die?"
Yeah.
And I assumed she would provide a little bit of hope and say, "You're not going to die, baby. What even gave you that notion?" But instead, my wise mother said, "Baby, do you want to?" And, Jesus is always encouraging folks, like, pick up your mat, wash your face, show yourself, move. It's very rarely about just receiving. That's part of it. That's part of grace. And the second piece of it is now step. And I think my mother recognized she could not make me do something.
Yeah.
The doctors could not make me do something. The community could not make me. Like, I had to do my little part.
Yeah.
So when she said, "Do you want to die?" I said, "Mom, I don't want to die. I want to live." And her response was, "Good. Look at me. You take the hand of," she said, "Look, you take the hand of Christ. You walk the journey with him, and you fight like you never fought before." She said, "Your Father and I are with you every step along the way. And now, John, it's your turn. Do your part and fight." So on that morning, it was January 17th, 1987, when the dinosaurs were still walking around. This is a lifetime ago, 40 years almost. But a little boy with his hand in his mother's hand also decided to take the hand of Christ and walked forward, having no idea what that actually meant other than fight.
Wow.
And I think sometimes, you've been through enough life to recognize there's wisdom when you're enduring suffering of just shutting your eyes and stepping and suffering, but recognizing it will be redeemed either in this life or the next.
Yeah.
But it doesn't end like this.
Right. Well, especially because, in that state, you have nothing to give. Like, like everything's stripped away. And I think about even your mom being able to say that
Right.
herself to her child and like what she was experiencing emotionally.
Right.
I mean, having that, I just like, it gave me chills when I watched it. It gave me chills again, John, because I just am so moved by that strength. And just, it's so clear how God was just working through your parents. And I need to talk about your father. And so you mentioned your father had recently passed away. It was in 2025?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So May 30th, 2025, Dad had Parkinson's disease
Yes.
for 33 years.
Yeah.
We used to have a sign in the kitchen that said, "This too shall pass," which is a beautiful thing to hang up somewhere in your life.
Yeah.
Right. It kind of goes back to that statement you wrote below the carpet in your old house.
Yeah.
"This too shall pass." And we had an awesome life as a family. Even after I got burned, we could spend a lot more time talking about recovery and what a struggle. But even after that struggle, we had a beautiful life. And then Dad got Parkinson's disease, and the struggle started up again. And he struggled for 33 years with that disease. And I think they did a pretty good job again in the film. You're trying to push 50 different lives into a 96-minute film. Like, it's hard to do. But I think John Corbett did a beautiful job portraying a slow fade with grace. And there's a scene that they shot at my mom and dad's house on the screened-in porch where John O'Leary is now, 30-ish, talking to his dad, and it's just a beautiful scene. It's a true story. And my dad is talking about the things in his life that he's grateful for because of Parkinson's disease. And in the movie, they gave him like 4 different things. In real life, my dad just kept telling me thing after thing after thing, specifically because of a cross, because of suffering that he was grateful for as a result of Parkinson's disease.
Wow.
And it ended with my dad saying to me, John, and I'm grateful, and just so y'all recognize at home, my dad at that moment was in a wheelchair. He was unemployed. He was struggling financially. He was losing his voice. He would lose it permanently by the end. He had a broken collarbone and a broken wrist. It was the third time he had a broken collarbone. So this isn't a man who was on a beach somewhere walking hand in hand with his sweetheart. This is a man who's suffering, talking about why he's grateful for the suffering.
Yeah.
So this is deep. And the final thing he said to me was, John, I'm grateful for being healed, even if not cured. He said, Parkinson's disease may claim my life at some point, but every day I wake up grateful for being healed. And my dad recognized that eventually light cuts through the darkness. And that is true regardless of the thing you suffer with. The light in the end will cut through the darkness.
Yes.
And on May 30th, it cut through the darkness.
Yeah.
And this agony that he endured so heroically and so collectively, because it's not, when someone suffers, it's not just theirs. You know, you mentioned your fiance. When your fiance suffers, or when your fiance's fiance suffers, and one of those two things will happen, it's not just one of your problems. It becomes ours. And if you're lucky enough, blessed enough to have kids or nephews and nieces, it will become theirs. So everybody endured a little bit of the struggle with my dad.
Yeah.
And yet light cut through the darkness on May 30th. And about a week and a half later, we celebrated his life at St. Clement's, which is the place that we had our first communions and reconciliations and confirmations and graduations. And a couple of us were married there. And here we are bringing my dad home there. Yeah. And Dad was unable to work because so much of our value, of course, is put on work and following, social following. How many social media followers do you have now?
Right.
How wealthy are you now?
Right.
What are people looking up to you and saying about you now through your greatness? My dad had no greatness. So who came to his funeral for a man who was unable to speak and unable to earn and write checks to the church and community? And the reality was it was oversold. It was standing room only for a man who showed others how to live faithfully until the end.
Yeah.
So my dad's life is an example of perfect success. When he was successful, he was humble. When he had nothing, he was grateful. The Lord gives, the Lord takes. Blessed be the name of the Lord was the way my father strode through life.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool way to get to the finish line.
It really is. And it's so beautiful how his legacy and his light is so clearly being carried on through you and through your ministry. And in the role that he played in your story, specifically, you know, when he was watching you suffer, and the way that you kept being, and I want to know how this compares to real life, was you kept thinking you were going to get in trouble.
All right.
Right? You kept, and all he did was like, no matter what, like, I love you. Like, he just kept saying that to this little mischievous boy who was like, I'm definitely going to get in trouble.
Right. Well, that's a real line.
Yeah.
So the line in the film is, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. And you hear it, I think, 3 times, maybe 4 times. And you hear it at moments where the kid he's just burnt down the house.
Yeah.
And he's sure that his father's going to be a little bit upset about this one. And Dad shows up and says, John, look at me. I love you. And there's nothing you can do about it. You hear it when John crashes the car in Colorado. It's a brand new car. It's a true story. In fact, my kids and I were just in Colorado, and my wife told that story of John and his buddy Rob crashing the car and Grandpa's reaction.
Yeah.
I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. You hear it again when John is messing up later on, and like it's this drum beat that carries, I think, the film forward. Most people think when they see Soul on Fire, it's going to be the story of a little boy who gets burned and how tough he is. And if you ever watch it, you recognize it's a story of how big our God is.
Yes.
And how he uses very ordinary people. There's a guy, you looked up to him in media, I'm sure, Jack Buck. So there's some celebrities who show up in the film. But really, at a deeper level, the story is about ordinary people. Like really, I read a book years ago called 12 Ordinary Men by John MacArthur. And the premise is, if you were to build an important business, who would you surround yourself with? And of course, elites. Well, what if you were to build an eternally important ministry? Who would you surround yourself with? Okay, elites, the best rabbis, for sure. And now in today's paradox, the Pope, and bring on the best, man. So who did Christ surround himself with?
Oh,
And
that was good.
12 ordinary
Super ordinary
dudes.
Yeah.
And so then the real story in this book is, well, what did Christ see in them? It's like ordinary, but yet if it's able to be redeemed, what can happen?
Yeah.
So one of the questions that Sony would ask people when they left the theater was, who was the hero in the film?
I love that.
And what was so cool is very rarely would the person in line behind the person in front of them say the same name.
Yeah.
So a few said John, a few said Dad, a few said Mom, a few said Beth. And I think the cool thing is Beth, my wife, is one of the heroes. A few said my siblings. A few said Nurse Roy.
Right.
A few said Jack Buck. A few said the janitor. A few said my college roommate, a kid named Mike, a true guy from SLU, who just humbly loves his roommate. It's what a boring thing to do as a teenage boy, to humbly encourage your roommate.
Yeah.
And yet the audience left this film recognizing heroism in ordinary love. I don't even know what led to this all, but I'm grateful that God worked through my dad's love.
Yes.
There's a picture that hangs in my office. You invited me to do this podcast, and you said, I'll do it at your office or mine. And so here we are at yours. But if you came to my office, in my specific room, there's a picture to my left of the prodigal father, the Rembrandt. I don't think it's the real one, so don't come out to my office and try to rip it off. It's that's in St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
But if you come to Kirkwood, you'll see a cheap knockoff of a father bringing a kid home into an embrace.
Yeah.
Ultimately, without words, saying I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I needed those words when I burned down my dad's house.
Yeah.
I needed those words when I crashed his car. I needed those words again and again in my life. I need them today. And I don't think I'm alone. And the good thing for us Christians and Catholics is we have them.
Yeah.
Turn to the cross.
Right.
Turn away from the struggle and the sin and the brokenness that you are part of, and turn to a God who just comes to you.
Right.
I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
There's nothing. And even the way that he shows, even when you were in your recovery and even when you were older and he was wanting to check in on you, it was never about like, how well are you recovering? Who are the man that you are? What are you? It was never about that. It was like, it's exactly a beautiful example of God's love, that he's going to love you right where you are, exactly as you are, no expectations. You can't make him love you more. You can't make him love you less.
Right.
And I
That's an important thing.
it's so important
for you to say again and again and again to the person in the mirror.
Yes.
God is not impressed by your bank account or
No.
following or car.
No.
And those things, listen, I'm a capitalist.
Right.
Bring it on, man. Let's grow business to change lives.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, God's not impressed by it.
No.
God loves you as you are, where you are. And
Yeah.
that ought to bring you such peace. It does for me.
Oh, yes. It really it takes it all off, right? Because I find that sometimes when I'm sitting down and I'm like, okay, what am I doing about this? What do I do about this? And then like I have that reminder. And I love that you brought up success, because I have been thinking so much about success recently in prayer. And it's like, it's so interesting how we define it. And then it's so beautiful when you actually think about it. It's like, I've had on Colleen Carroll Campbell, and she would say, what is this in the light of eternity? And I felt like that's a big theme too of what you were saying with your dad's life when he was going through Parkinson's. It's like, this is a huge cross and I'm in a lot of pain, but what is this in the light of eternity? And so looking at success with that framework, and I love the word ordinary. I love that you said that. And I'm going to pray with that, because Jesus came, you just said we're celebrating Christmas in the most ordinary of ways. It was so ordinary. And Mary was just like this little village girl. She was so, I mean, we know she was extraordinary, but she was at first glance an ordinary girl.
It's shocking. I mean,
it's shocking.
I think we race through Luke during the Christmas season and miss how ordinary and exceptional this moment is.
Yeah.
Like, the author of life used a ordinary girl.
Yeah.
And an ordinary guy. I mean, you and I are recording this in St. Joseph's Church. St. Joseph. You talk about a hero, man.
Yeah.
What is he doing staying with her?
Mm-hmm.
What would you do if your husband's by the way,
It would be
something
pretty
happened
crazy.
pretty wild in my life. And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I trust you. Okay.
Right.
And yet through the dream and the words, we should hear them again throughout our lives. Do not be afraid.
Yeah.
They were received and responded to appropriately with, yes, I'll believe.
Yes.
I'll have faith. I'll step.
Yes.
I'll trust you.
The step, going back to that step. And what I love about St. Joseph too is, and this was something that I had only just been, I learned about, was a lot of it too was like of a fear of, well, I'm not enough. You know, like if this is true, this is me gonna help raise the Son of God. Like Lord, I am not enough, right?
Yes.
And it's like, okay, stop that right there. I'm choosing you. And I feel that was something too that I found a lot in your story and your themes. And maybe that's not the right word for the wound, but did you find that idea of like, I'm not enough?
Oh my gosh. I still find that.
Yeah.
And if you don't find that, you really should, well, either you are nearing sainthood,
Yes.
which is awesome.
Which is,
Good for
we're
you.
really happy for you.
Or
But the rest of us are struggling.
or you're not being honest.
Yeah.
Honestly, like,
Yeah.
because if you think like you're enough all the time, like it's probably borderline arrogance. Because I know how broken I know my thoughts.
Yeah.
I know my brokenness. I know my sinfulness. I know my limitations. And on my good days, I know God's grace.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
So yeah, I perpetually live in a state where I recognize I am not enough, and thank God He is.
Yes. Well, this kind of goes back to, I did want to officially ask, did Beth really brother zone you? I called it brother zoned. Is that true?
She's brutal, man. It's so in the movie, there's a scene where John, after like a year, asks
Yes.
Beth out. In real life, it was 2 years of waiting and pursuing awkwardly.
Oh, my
And so after
goodness.
2 years, I finally asked this beautiful girl out. And she said, like in the movie, John, you're like a brother to me. Which is not what anybody wants to hear.
Yeah.
And here's the truth. I'd never dated. So when you hear you're like a brother to me, it's not just like, that's all right. I'll go out next weekend and find Miss Right.
Yeah.
It is validation of what you and I were just talking about, that you are not enough.
Right.
And you never will be.
Right.
So in the movie, it's kind of cute because you know how the story ends.
Yeah.
And in life, maybe you know how the story ends. But when you are a teenager, maybe
That
20,
hurt.
dude, it burns.
Oh,
And then you go home and you look in the mirror and you see scars.
yeah.
And I have physical scars to see, but I promise you, for the listeners or viewers, when they look in the mirror, they see them too. And they know they're not enough.
Yeah.
And they know it. So Beth's friend zone was validation of what I knew to be true. And so it did burn. And then you get back on it and you try to step forward faithfully and boldly. And I pursued her for another year. And I asked her out a second time. And
You
she
did.
said, nothing's changed.
No, are you serious?
Totally.
Oh my goodness.
And so then the question is, so what did change?
Yeah.
Because it seems like something changed. And, you woke up next to her this morning with 4 kids. Well, what changed, and it's important, is a conversation with my dad. You saw it a little bit in the movie where he's like, stop trying to get something out of it. Start pouring into it. Like, it's in the movie, they made it kind of a cheesy reflection of Cars. But in real life, my dad was talking about unconditional love and this idea of stopping pursuing things for your own self-interest and validation.
Wow. That's deep.
It's it, though.
That's
It is
it.
everything. And so what happened in my world and in Beth's world is she saw a boy who no longer needed her, but instead was able just to love her.
Yeah.
And when we were together, I wasn't trying to get a thing from her, not a ring, not intimacy, not validation of my fullness. I was just there as her friend, and I was confident. And there's, for the single people in the room who long one day of maybe finding love, there's something beautiful when someone else knows the person across the table is enough already. They know that. And they also know when that person's not enough already.
Yeah.
And I think she saw a kid for year after year after year who knew he was not enough
Yeah.
and needed someone to complete him, like Jerry Maguire would say.
Right.
And then she started to see a kid who was confident
Mm-hmm.
and less needing of addictive behaviors and less needing of eye candy to be on his arm,
Right.
and just confident when he came into a place by himself and left by himself. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Right.
I'm good. And that's attractive.
Yes.
So I think Beth in the movie and in real life, she recognized that this boy who had pursued her no longer was.
Yeah.
And she found something beautiful in that. And she actually was the one who asked me out.
She was. I love
It
that.
happened here in St. Louis. It happened not, the movie, it's a car crash. In real life, it's dinner.
Yeah.
We were at Cafe Napoli outside, gorgeous September evening. The sun was setting. She takes a big old sip of wine, puts it down, and says, "John, I don't know what's happened, but every time I'm with you, butterflies are now in my stomach, and I wish they would float away, but I think I've fallen for you."
Oh.
And then she says, "John, will you date me?" And I said, "Beth, I don't date sisters. That's repulsive." No, man, I said, "Yeah, of course." And so we first kissed that night and led to another one and the Shrine of St. Joseph and 4 kids and 21 years of
It's
marriage.
beautiful.
It did not go down the way I would have authored it, which is perfect.
Yeah.
Like, quit trying. Gosh, there's so much emphasis on you.
Right.
What if you can just shut your eyes and have faith?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the plan will work when you say yes to it, not you.
I love that.
And right now the focus is so much on you.
It is. It is. And it's hard. I feel like we're in a culture that promotes that in a lot of ways, with just like self-care, success, productivity. And I find myself in my head all the time where it's like, wow, this whole day, like I really have only been thinking about me.
Where is any of that stuff in Scripture?
I'm
I'm serious. Like, I know it's
not there.
I'm not even going to try to unpack it because I'll probably have you lose all of your followers and friends right now. But we spend so much time on us and on your personal truth.
Yeah.
Like, because you really do need to follow your personal truth. Like,
Right.
where is any of that
Yeah.
scripturally true?
Right. And the most, the times that I feel the most full in life are the times when it's about others.
Right?
And there's a reason for that. And that's what I love about when you're saying when Beth fell for you, it was when it was no longer about what I'm going to get out of this relationship. And what a wonderful way to go into dating her. And then, of course, now marrying her, where that's what it is to marry, to lay down your life for someone. It's not supposed to be about what am I getting out of this?
Right. And we will never have a successful marriage or life until you recognize that fully.
Yeah.
If you look at the lives of the great saints, some of them married, many of them not, they lay down their life perpetually, daily, minute by minute for something greater than themselves. It leads to sainthood.
Yeah.
And that can be true in marriage.
Yeah.
And as long as you are making it about you, you will have an unhappy marriage and ultimately an unhappy, unfulfilling life. And one more thing. And society's preaching the exact opposite. And then we are wondering why we're more medicated, more upset, more filled with anxiety than any society at any point in history before this one.
Yeah.
And it's because we are waiting for life to fill us.
Yes. That's so true. And it's hard now because, we've talked about it's now January. It's like New Year's resolutions. And listen, I'm in that. I'm in that industry where like we have to like talk about those things and promote those things. And I often like kind of have to take a step back, and it's like, these are all wonderful tools. But if this is what you're basing your happiness, your purpose off of, this is just going to fail. It is going to fail in a month, in a few weeks, in a day.
Right. And listen, whether your resolutions are around finance or health or good.
Yes.
Why not try to, Matthew Kelly, become a better version of yourself? Absolutely. But recognize ultimately why you're striving to become a better version of yourself. And it's not for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to, because now I'm curious while we're talking about marriage, did you find in your parents' marriage a lot of that examples and that idea of self-gift?
Almost not until I delivered my dad's eulogy. I'm the fourth born, so my hope was my brother would do it. Actually, if I'm just being transparent, my brother's an attorney. He's a trial attorney, very capable of delivering a couple lines.
Yeah.
So I thought Jim should do it, and then Katie and Amy and Sue, like everyone else I was hoping would have the honor of celebrating their dad's life, and yet it was my honor ultimately. So in praying over this and reflecting over this, I recognized that we witnessed at my mom and dad perfect marriage. And that does not mean perfect day after day. There was yelling occasionally. There were plates that broke occasionally. There were people late for meetings. Like life happens occasionally. And yet we witnessed a father who laid down his life during his earning years for his wife. He just was so wild about Susan. One of the lines I delivered was, anything my mother wanted ever, she would just say, Denny, could we please? And like, whatever the thing was, anything. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like St. Joseph. Yes. Yes. And that's what happened in their marriage for 25 years. Denny saying yes to my mom. Then we turn the page. He loses his job. He comes home. He spends a decade in and out of the hospital, in and out of diapers. And we watched a spouse on the other side of the equation lay down her life for him. Anything he needed. Anything. Yes. And it was this beautiful example of marital love, like what it ultimately is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
It's not always rainbows and ponytails and puppy dogs and trips to Florida. We had a little bit of that for a while, but we saw sacrificial love for decades. And kids pick up on what is caught.
Right.
So we witnessed our mom. In fact, one of the stories I shared, it's probably going to make me cry, but it's the last time I saw my mom tuck my dad in. So we did not know my dad was dying yet. And at that point in my dad's life, he needed a lot of help. Like it was not a one-person job, it's two, to the toilet, on and on. I won't go through all the details. It's very difficult. And one of us would have to help my mom with that. Man, it was hard. I hated it. I hated it for my dad. I hated it for my mom. And if I'm being honest, I hated it for me. I want to give it on with my life. I wish Parkinson's never arrived in our life. I wish the cross never appeared in their story. That's how I felt. So after 90 minutes of getting my dad to bed, I get him in. I'm wiped. I'm sweaty, and I'm mad. And so I'm leaving the room, and I hear my mom come back in. She goes right back into my dad, leans over him, kisses him, and says, you're still my boyfriend, and I still love you. She kisses him again, walks out. That's my mom. And my dad, in some regards, earned that love by the way he loved her so well for so long.
Yeah.
But I saw a woman who had been with that man for 64 years come back in with a sore back and sore wrist and sore ankles from years of treating him, who bent over his side one more time, not knowing that anyone was listening, and not knowing it would be one of the last times she'd ever do it, saying, I still choose you. And for me, it's so scripturally gifted, man.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing dad can do for her.
Right.
And hey, people, I know you're all great achievers out there as you're setting your resolutions. There's nothing you can do for God.
Yeah.
He spoke, and the universe leapt into life.
Yeah.
He spoke, and life showed up on earth.
Yeah.
And he's not that impressed by you, and yet he chooses you.
Right.
That is so crazy.
Oh, gosh.
So I got to witness that near the end of my dad's life, and I got to celebrate what I witnessed as a son because they're watching.
Yeah.
I remind my kids, like, people are watching you.
Yeah.
Give them something that can be looked up to and celebrated after you walk out of the room. My mom did not know I'd be eulogizing her. Half of my eulogy was about her and marriage.
Yeah.
Like that was really what we celebrated, this marital covenant that we witnessed as kids for 64 years they were together. And in a world that cheapens that, my mom and dad humbly elevated it.
And it's a beautiful just example of the purpose of marriage is to carry the cross with each other to get each other to heaven. And wow, that I'm going to remember that one.
Me too.
I'm going to remember that one. That's really special. That's really beautiful. I want to sort of, when I'm thinking about, there are two things that I want to make sure I touch on before we land the plane. The first one is, your dad mentioned this, and I think this was in the scene that you were talking about when it was about Beth, was redefining a perfect life. And you mentioned it there too when you're talking about your parents, and it's like, no, we didn't want this cross of Parkinson's. So this would be far from what you would think of as perfect. So what do you mean by this when it's redefining the perfect life?
So that conversation was between Denny and John at Keener Plaza. And for your listeners and viewers outside of St. Louis, right in front of the Arch. And at that point in my life, I was struggling with self-worth and value and single and probably addicted to alcohol and completely unsure of my future.
Yeah.
And completely unrooted in my faith. It doesn't mean I completely stepped away from it, but there are seasons for all of us, even the saints. My understanding is Mother Teresa spent decades wondering. And the cynics and the atheists will say, well, there it is. It's all a lie. And those of us with belief will say, there it is. There's the faith.
Yeah.
In the midst of not knowing, step on.
Yeah.
Just keep loving them and watch what happens. So I lean toward the latter, of course. But my dad and I are walking. He's got a little bit of a limp now because he's got Parkinson's disease. And he says a line like, you can't always choose the path that you walk in life, but you can always choose the manner in which you walk it. And then he talks about redefining perfection. He and my mom talked a lot about this after I came home from the hospital and was well enough to understand what they were talking about. And we live in a world that celebrates perfection. Like just the right face and the right nose. And my gosh, I mean, here we are in Clayton, Missouri, near St. Joseph's. There's 50 centers to make you more beautiful right around us.
Yeah.
And fine. And yet exterior beauty will never satisfy. It's a loser's game ultimately. Like it's a fight every day uphill that you cannot climb fast enough and high enough. You will lose that one. My mom and dad were recognizing this is the world they live in. So what will then define perfection for this child who is in a wheelchair at that time, who has no fingers, who is bright red, open sores, broken scars, and ugly to the world? Well, they'll have to redefine what perfection is then. And so I witnessed them as a child redefining for me what perfection was. I recognized it with my siblings as they redefined what perfection was. They fought for me. These kids. I mean, my little sister Susan remains a fighter, but if someone gave me a second look when they rolled me into a restaurant, that little 7-year-old would give them the fiercest, meanest look. Like, what are you looking at? I'll kill you. Like, thank God for a fighting sister and loving parents who redefined perfection.
Yeah.
And I think those listeners of yours who have a child maybe with special needs, when you get the diagnosis, it's not what you want. None of us, just be honest, none of us pray for a child to get burned. None of us pray for a diagnosis. And yet those of us who receive that and then recognize how God works through that also recognize their life is better because of that. So the 6 O'Leary kids and their parents' life became utterly transformationally better because of the fire, which is crazy to talk about because so much of the focus is on John. And what I know to be true is when I was rushed away from the house, my siblings were left holding themselves in front of a burning shell. When my parents were at my side, my siblings were orphans. When my mom and dad were with me for 5.5 months, and Jack Buck and all the Cardinals and blues players, and the Pope was writing letters, and John was the focus. What a star he was. Well, where were the siblings? They were at my grandparents' house for a while. There was a family in our church who moved out of their home into a small little apartment so the O'Leary kids could have one house to live in together. Like, who does that?
Wow.
Like love. But every time the phone would ring, every single day, the kids would all look at it with that look of, oh gosh, here it is.
Yeah.
John died.
Yeah.
What's that like for a child to know every time a phone rings, their brother died? What's that pain like? And then even when I came home, Channel 5 and 4 and 2 and 11, they all come by to cover John's recovery. But they weren't interviewing my siblings. And it would be so easy for these little ones to be angry. And I wouldn't blame them. And yet, for the folks who were at the film premiere, in the front row sat my siblings. Every time we'd done a book launch, in the front row sit my siblings.
Yeah.
Every time there's a big story online, the first to share it are my siblings. So these little kids who have become adults who are raising their own babies, who celebrate their little brother's success. And I think that's so cool. And what led to it ultimately was, before we got burned, we were a family of faith. After we got burned, we were a family of faith.
Yeah.
And we are able to share one another's burdens and to celebrate one another's successes, and we do it together.
That's perfection to me in
That's awesome.
in my mind.
Right?
I don't want to give too much away, but there's so much I like at the end of it. The movie, you do go through your siblings and how each one of them, the actor goes through how each one of them really made a difference, and I loved that. I felt like it called attention to this. Everyone was in this. Everyone was carrying this cross.
Right.
Which just also shows that we don't carry these crosses alone. There was a big part of it, the expression, why me? You said it in the beginning, and it was an upset. Why me? Why would this happen to me? You say it at the end, and it's a grateful why me. Talk to us about that. How did you go from that?
Yeah. So my favorite review of all because the movie comes out, and believe it or not, people judge movies. So my favorite review was from Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
And the reviewer wrote, he gave us 1 out of 5 stars, which is already awesome. And then he says, John O'Reilly, and talked about the O'Reilly family and how the whole story is a lie. And he went through scene after scene talking about how this wouldn't have happened and that wouldn't have happened, and some radio announcer would not have visited. But the thing that really set this guy off about John O'Reilly and the O'Reilly family was the fact that the whole thing is awesome. Was that there's no way the O'Reilly house could be rebuilt in 5 months. So in our story, there's a miracle after miracle after miracle of how God redeemed this story.
Yeah.
And here is this reviewer, this critic, who, through the midst of unmistakable miracles, is getting focused on the stuff that does not matter. A house being rebuilt, and the reality is, it was.
Yeah.
We moved, but still, look it up.
Right.
Ask my neighbors. They saw the construction. We had 5 months to do so.
Yeah.
We moved back into that home, reviewer, and yet he's missing the fact that a kid who should not have lived does.
Yeah.
That an announcer who should be too busy comes by. That when he's told the kid is going to die, he comes back. That a college roommate loves his roommate in spite of the fact that I don't love myself. That the prettiest girl at St. Louis University chose me. That a kid who was addicted for years and years and years no longer is. That a family that should not have come back together did so. That a God who sometimes seems quiet was loud in this one, using ordinary people to show up with grace. So you asked about the why me. It's a true story. I bring up the reviewer because everything in the film is true. It's just honest. So the first thing I was able to click out, you said speak. I wasn't able to talk at that time. I was able only to communicate by clicking. So my mom and dad would point to a little letter board, and when they got to the right letter, I would click. And that was their indication that, W, H, Y, why me? So my first question to them was, why me? And they weren't able to explain it, of course. Why would this terrible thing, a fire, 100% burn, why would this happen? Why am I in pain? Why me? Why are they amputating my fingers? Why me? Why will I never find love? Why me? Why me? And then at the end of the story, you recognize that God has worked through it in mighty ways. And so the way John in the film, and John, your guest today, now asked that question, is in what world should any of this happen for me? I don't feel like I've earned this time with you today or your listeners' attention. Why me? I don't know if you saw the sunrise today. It was gorgeous. Why me? My dad suffered mightily, and 1,000 people celebrated his life. Why me? We know where he is. Why me? I get to have lunch with my mom this afternoon. Why me? 4 healthy kids. Why me? Had the opportunity to fly out to the freaking Rose Bowl with my son, Jack, who's at Indiana University last weekend, and cheer on my new Hoosiers.
Wow.
Why me?
Yeah.
Our seats got lost on StubHub, and so they had to give us backup tickets. They move us to the front row.
Are you serious?
Why me? Like, the whole thing is just
Wow.
a gift.
Yeah.
And if you can recognize when you're moved to the front row,
Yeah.
or when they don't let you into the stadium, that in both outcomes, God is at work.
Yeah.
If honestly, if you can recognize that, then you can look up the way John does at the end of the film and say, why me? And until you recognize it, your question will always be asked the way little John asked it on the front side.
Yeah.
Why is it so unfair?
Right.
Why is politics so broken? Why can't I find love? Why can't I get the right job? Why is the world so busted up right now? Why me? Why is it cold outside? Why me? So when we know God works through all seasons, we recognize God works through all seasons. Why me? Like, that ought to really take an awful lot of anxiety off our plate.
It's that gratitude. It's a huge theme in your story, and it sounds like in your life is comes back to gratitude.
Right.
And I loved that. I loved the how that was a complete circle of why me.
Well, there's an old theologian. I won't even butcher his name, but the quote is, if the only prayer you ever offer is thank you, that's enough.
Yeah.
And
That's
in our
powerful.
world, as we get hot coffee in 13 seconds and Amazon can deliver you anything that evening, we very rarely are able to look east, watch the sunrise, watch light cut through the darkness and say, God, holy cow, why me?
Yeah.
Thank you. Just thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah. It's interesting. My fiance now, we do before bed, we call each other and we do 5 things that we're grateful for from the day. And it's so funny because I'll be like talking about the day, like, oh man, blah, blah, blah. And then by the end of it, when it's like, okay, what are 5 things you're grateful for? It's like, I'm at like 15.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, it's just great. You're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Throwing a pity party?
Right.
Here in my safe, warm home?
So my daughter and I, her name's Grace. I have 3 boys, and the fourth kid was a daughter, which is just a blast. So Grace and I and all the boys, I guide them through 4 questions before prayer time each night, even in college. In fact, Jack, my son, wrote college essays on how he hated Dad's questions. And now how he's nearing the end of this time with Dad at home,
Yeah.
how he recognizes the beauty of these questions.
Oh.
And the questions, and I'll go in reverse order, are where were you kindness for someone? Where was someone kindness for you? What was the most challenging part of your day? And what was the best part of your day? And so each night as I lay with these little kids, now they're adults, man. I mean, they're men and women. She's 14, and they go up from there.
Yeah.
But I still lay with them, and it begins with, what are you grateful for? So I think what you are doing with your fiance, keep practicing. That muscle, as you stretch it, will make you stronger in that part of your world. It's what my dad taught me. And there's a scene in the movie where a prisoner talks about what he's grateful for. You may remember a prisoner. That's a real thing that happened.
Wow.
And it happened at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. Maximum security prison. None of those guys are getting out. And these inmates were not really believing in what I was talking about that day. You know, it's easy to cross your arms to the people in the front of the room, in particular when it's a message that is abrasive to the message you want to believe in.
Yeah.
That the world is unfair, that God is dead,
Yeah.
that it's all bad, and that you're locked away and there's nothing redeemable about this. So about halfway through, though, I gave them an opportunity to think about, where is God in this moment? What are you grateful for right now? And in the real life, what I did is I sat down and played Amazing Grace. Gave them a moment to really chill, because it's hard to ignore music.
Yeah.
I think church just, unless you go to the early morning sessions,
Right.
it gives you a moment to reflect during song. So I wanted to give them 90 seconds just to reflect. And then I said, hey guys, what are you grateful for because of prison? And the first guy said, not one damn thing. And everybody laughed. And the second inmate, it's a true story, stood and said, I'll share. And he said, John, I'm grateful for air in the summer, heat in the winter, I'm grateful for hot showers, cold water, grateful for 3 square meals. I learned to read here, got my GED here, made some friends here, found a bed here. Goes on and on and on. And then he says, plus out there, I'd be dead. So I'm grateful for life. That's all I got. He sits down. There was this moment of like total silence in a prison. And then there was this applause. And then everybody rose and clapped. And I witnessed in front of me 2 prisoners, both wearing the same outfits, eating the same meals, living another identical lives, maybe 3 doors down. It's the same life though. One where when he was done identifying his day, everyone laughed at him. The second one, when he was done identifying his day, everyone applauding for him. And that's the way you and I get to step into life.
Yeah.
We can be part of the joke that it's all bad and it's ugly and there's nothing redeemable about any of it. And we will have more social following maybe because of it and people applauding at us. Or we can recognize how blessed in unmistakable ways we are, how God's hand is unmistakably over our lives, how this thing is being redeemed in real time. And in doing that and in living a way that draws people into that truth, I think we'll have people applauding with us and for us at the end of our days, like I saw with my dad.
Yeah. Wow. And I love that you're saying they're living the same lives. It's just a different perspective.
It sounds like a made up story because like it's not like, well, yeah, but he's got a better wardrobe.
Right.
He's got better food.
Right.
There's nothing better or worse about either one of them. It's the same miserable lot.
Yeah.
And yet, the second gentleman who celebrated how God has worked and is working received a standing ovation from his peers.
Wow. That's powerful. Very powerful. Wow. You know what? This has been so much fun. I have loved every single moment of this. This really has. I told you, I mean, I really, really enjoyed the film, but being able to sit here and talk with you, it's powerful what God has and continues to do through you and through your ministry and your life. And so thank you so much for taking time. I know we had a wisdom teeth happenings, some drop-offs, things. So you're certainly busy. So thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it.
Well, Mary, you interviewed a very ordinary guy. Ask my wife, ask my kids, ask my teachers from high school and grade school.
Yes.
Who finally has surrendered his will to God's.
Yeah.
And my hope for your listeners who we've not yet rocked to sleep is if they still are somehow paying attention to our conversation, that they have the audacity to shut their eyes, say yes, and step forward.
Yeah.
Because their life can be used in ways far mightier than they imagine right now.
Yeah. Well, I know I needed to hear that today. So I'm sure it's the same for them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary.
And before, just so people know, they can watch the movie. We have the book. I'm going to include all that in the show notes. What's the best way to keep tabs on John O'Leary?
So there's a website out there that is, it's kind of the library for all that stuff. It's called johnolearyinspires.com.
Okay.
So johnolearyinspires.com. Our podcast is there, social media, the books, my email. So it's a way to stay in touch. And then there's links to the film. So the film was in theaters for weeks around the country and around the world. And now it's streaming on Amazon, Apple, Netflix. It's everywhere. And here's one final cool thing. It's rating very high. It had a 98% when it was in theaters Rotten Tomatoes score. Wow. And you're like, well, gosh, it must have been great acting. And like, here's what I think it is. We live at a time where everything is either left or right. And our only version of heroism, true heroes, wear tights and capes and have special powers. And then into theaters came children and retirees and widows and young couples, and they would leave an hour and a half later recognizing what heroes look like. And sometimes they're burn survivors, so I guess, but they look a lot like nurses. They look a lot like janitors. They look an awful lot like siblings and parents and spouses and friends and girlfriends and roommates. And they saw within people in the film what they hope to become more of themselves in a society that celebrates the wrong version of heroes.
Yeah.
So my hope is that if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. If you haven't shared it yet with others, make them watch it. and then ask themselves, how do you think that happened? Because you can be like the reviewer in Portland who says it's a lie.
Yeah.
But then Mary and I are having this conversation today, so it must not be.
Right.
So if it's not a lie, how did it happen?
Right.
Is John that tough?
Right.
Were the caregivers at Mercy that good?
Yeah.
And they were great, undoubtedly. Was Jack Buck that generous?
Yeah.
Or was God hands all over this thing? And if it's true in John's life, and if it's true scripturally, and if it's true in the life of the saints, why not in your life as well?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It is. It's not, and we didn't even go all the way deep. We didn't get to talk about Nurse Roy. We didn't dive into Jack Buck. You guys, you just have to, first of all, we'll listen to John's podcast and his books, but you also have to watch the movie. Watch the movie. It's incredible. We were so moved by it, and it's definitely going to be one of my favorites. So for good.
You read that just like I wrote it. So I wrote that script right before Mary took the microphone and she crushed the landing.
Oh, very, very humble. Very humble. Well, thank you so much, John, for
Thank you,
joining
ma'am.
us again. This was a blast.